Hello everyone. Aikoigi Doordarshan Manipur na paringnai na puthok chaba learning English grammar ge anoba episode amada mayam pumnamapu taramna okchari. Kui mamangi episode ta aikoi na naina krabane madudi aikoi question marks ki usage mayam ama akoi naina kre akoi wahang hangbagi khudam haibasi akoi masi punctuation mark amane adugi masigi punctuation mark sigi uses mayam ama akoi naina krabane ngasi akoi naina gaduripsi akoi wahang hangbagi khudam or masigi question mark asi atopa punctuation mark karamba maungda sizinaba yabage or yadabra yadabra amasung yaragana karamba maungda sizinabage haibasi akoi mayam naina menagani ahanbada akoi mayam yengminasi question marks and a period ko haidi question marks with periods haibadi akoi full stop ka question mark ka sizinaba yabra punna sizinaba yabra si akoi mayam yengminasi akoina mamangi episode ta naina krabani madudi akoi wahang akoi ge sentence ama loibasi the sizinaba akoi ge punctuation mark ahum khak lei madudi periods natragana full stop or anisubada akoi exclamatory mark akoi angakpa phongdokpi khudam aduga ahum subadana akoi question mark or masi wahang hangbi khudam na hairiba ahum sina sentence loib sizinai haibane aduna sentence loibasi ahum si khaktang sizinaba maramna kaidoge hai kanstaida masi ani natraga ahum si makoi sentence ama loiba matamda pulap akoi hapchanba or haibasi masi grammatically masi error ni masi aran mani aduna when ending a sentence we would use either a period or question mark and not both ko akoina sentence ama iba matamda masi sentences asi lotion ma matamda aikoi full stop natragana aikoi wahang hangbi khudam se wahang hangbi khudam haibadi question mark si makoi ani sige marakta ama koi sizinagani ani makse sizinaba yade according to the grammatical rule. However, masi having said that madu haigra matung staida exception amtang ai utsage madudi kaino hai kan staida if the question ends with an abbreviation akoi full stop sizinabada koi mayama naina grabani periods ki usage of akoi periods or full stop sizina matamda akoi abbreviation to matamda full stop sizina has akoi na ukramne aduna if a question ends with an abbreviation question si abbreviation amana lotion ba targadi okay we would place a question mark after the period ko hairiba question mark adu point or period ki matungda akoi na thamgani or amona haigana abbreviation si lakpa taragadi abbreviation sin aroiba part of the sentence oi taragadi of course we can both use the period as well as the question mark ko for example who is the present president of the United States of America or US ko who is the present president of the US si kaino I can u full stop as full stop maisi full stop na loi question masigi sentence asimak kaino loge ha kan staida akoi abbreviation amana loi US haibsina ko ada hairiba US haibsi abbreviation si full stop na loi adu hangiba masigi wahai pareng asi wahang oiba maramna it has to have a question mark at the end of the sentence aduna masi koina exception oibi ai madidi kaino ha kan staida of course full stop ka question mark ka loibidi yade grammatically adubu hairiba question asi abbreviated word amana with the full stop abbreviated word se full stop yauba wai amana loiba taragadi akoi full stop su akoi question mark su legani habni koi sidaida ure example sidaida you as you full stop as full stop and question mark masi ure ko ademu yengminasi akoi what about question mark using with an exclamatory mark or exclamation mark hai question mark si exclamation mark ka sizinaba yabra hai targadi of course yade ngasai du chap mane akoi sentence si loiba matamda it has to be either a full stop or a question mark or an exclamatory mark akoi sentence loibagi punctuation ahum se sinatana loiba yade ani loibsi ade punjan busi ade ahum punjan busi ade adu exception ama laikre koi mamangda aduga chap manana yes akoi exclamatory mark ka full stop ka punjan badi yade adubu in akoi formal akoi informal writings ta informal writings haibadi akoi gi marung upang sing akoi na inaba matamda chithi thana ba matamda akoi kanoma email thana ba matamda of course akoi exclamatory mark plus akoi question marks akoi na sizinagani ko aduna adubok po formal writings ta akoi official writings aduga akoi yamna aremba mongda official gi oiba akoi na communicate to na bagi damakta akoi writing torpa matam da formal writing jadi a sentence will end with either a question mark or an exclamation point and not both ko animak na akoi lotion bayaroiba but as I have just told you informal writing jadi people will often use a question mark and exclamatory points and sometimes in several ko hay the exclamation points or exclamation marks yam amakhakta nataba ani ahum se several exclamatory marks koi sizinayeba ko sizinaba yaweba haibidi in informal writings for example what happened question ni what happens question ni adu what happens question hangba khakta natana ngakna hangbagi ko with a akoi emotion amaga loinana ngaga hangbagi or with a shock with a surprise ko yamna alakpaga loinana hangbu oitaragadi in especially in informal writing ko informal writing deni ko masi kai rakanda question gi matungda akoi exclamatory marks sizinaba yaw why has the question ni adong pu why gi mamang da su ma lere aduga mu question mark le kan state da mu exclamatory mark amu lere aduga mu mathang da question mark aduga exclamatory mark mathang hapase adum informal writings maru pang sing ada khoi gi official setting nataba ai khoi gi maru pang sing family ai khoi gi khangak chanaba mayam sing khoi na inaba matam da writings da khoi of course we can use both question mark as well as the exclamatory point. What about exclamatory mark using with a comma? Comma ga loina na season of kamai to ko me ming si ko. A question mark replaces a comma if used in a quote. Ko haibdi ko season ba yade haib se ko ni yeng dui ni amai kai no ha ka stay da akoi na quote amai akoi na mamang da comma gi uses ma ma koi like nei na khrabani ada comma gi uses se mayam gi marak ta akoi na nei na khib do kai no ha kan da akoi na quote ama haibdi mina harak pasi pau tamak pamatamda or direct speech si akoina irakpa matamda or akoi kanoma akoi writings ama or book ama dege koi quote torpa matamda akoi comma ga loina koi quote taw hamne adubu hairiba akoi quote si masi a question mark replaces a comma if used in a quote. For example hairiba question mark si hai might quote si question oitaragadi comma gi mohta khoi question mark sina use togane hongane khudamai habda who is in charge question mark inverted comma manung deni ko who is in charge she asked mana hangeni kaino hai kan stay da masigi kanana charge kanana masi mako kana oige kana in charge oige han hangeni mana a question mark ni kaino quote si nupi duna hairibo wahang nupi duna hangiba or nupi duna express story ba wafam singasi question oiba maramna it's already questioned aduna kai da we ha ka da normal sentence tadi akoi masi question gi mohutta question mark gi mohutta comma hapado comma gi mohutta masi question oibina question mark na sinida ai haini ge adi matung da amu akoi ni yengba ya si with a quotation marks okay exclamation akoi gi question mark si akoi quotation marks ka season of matamda akoi kamai to godege have si akoi mem yeng if a question ends with a quote that is not a question itself place the question mark outside the quotation mark haibadi kaino hai kan stay da mana suppose akoi pawro ama quote tawren khalasi ahalamana hairamba wa hojik pawro oina chatnaraba ko adegi aphauba wahi pareng ama si quote ama mana hai quote tawren khalaje mana mina hairamba ma'am sing si ko ada hairiba quote si masi kano oitarga su khoi simple sentence oitarga su quote si seasonarga wahang hangbo oitarga di question mark se khoi quotation mark ki wang ma da leikane khudumai haibada khoi haibi ai quote apawba ma a penny saved is a penny earned haibse yam apauba adugumba quote amani ko mayamna sizinaba writings ta adugi aikoi wangang bada speech bada sizinaba adugumba pawru amani ko haibidi aikoina anama save to wise anama tanjan baga chap mane or lupa ma save to wise ana lupa ma tanjan baga chap mane haine ko se haibidi it's the moral of this statement is tungjan ba pasha tungjan ba se phai haibane ko adana sigi pot si masi quote si nupa mana sizinara hang en si masi si quote si itself is not a question but it's a statement ko masi statement ni asi masi akoi declarative sentence amani adubu masigi quote si sizinara ga wahang ama hangboi targadi kaidawi magi question mark se my quotation gi wang mad laigane masigi wahi se kanana hairamano a penny who said a penny saved is a penny earned masi kanana hairamano haibasi question mark se mapanda laigane si ma'am screen su ubigani why masi mapanda quotation gi mapanda question mark se laigi si karigino hai taragadi because the quotation itself is not a question but the quotation is used to ask a question by someone kanagumba mana masi question hangnana bugi dong sijna khiba adugumba quotation amaneba ko adu natragana ko if the quotation, the quote itself is a question. Quote masamak mana quote tawra is a question oitargadi haidiba question marks a quotation gi manung da laigane. For example, he asked, "What time is it?" Masi akoi direct indirect speech nainaba matam da akoi masigis this type of sentence akoi mamam naina khrabani. Ko asida koina urse kaino he asked quotation manung sida question du lairamni na quotation si masamak question oiba maramna hairiba question mark se kaida laigedege it's not outside of the inverted commas but it is inside the inverted comma ani sigi manungda laigede question marks why mamdi kaino haikanda the quote itself is a question quote masamak se masi question oibagi damakta ne adumak pu sentence su adu manungda yauriba quote se question oitaragadi we will not be using two questions or two question marks adu question mark amakakna koi loselane. For example, how many times are you going to ask me, are you there yet? Kodamoina habada maji gari thawar lakpaje phone ji sum toksalakpai mong ne ma je ko the phone ji sum toksalakpase da maji fed up tawbadi wasalakpadi sum question je hangpadi kyamu yamna nangna hangdoi aingonda hangdoi se ai yorabra je kyamu yamna nang aingonda hangdoi no haibse keno quote su question ni aduga quote se sizinaraga su hairibo wangse wahang ne ko aduna kaino I can say that if both the sentence and quote are questions masi question oitaragadi the question mark goes inside the quotation marks masi question mark se masi su manungda leiganeba ko aduna question mark se koi manungda leiduna how many times are you going to ask me comma inverted comma begins are we there yet adugi koi question marks aduga koi inverted comma ends misil lay aduna masine akoina question mark siznabagi akoigi along with other punctuation marks akoi punctuation mark atopa singa question mark siznaba yabra yaragana karma mongda siznagane aduga yadaba singdu kaino haibdugi matung akoi nainara matung sida now we will go another akoigi punctuation mark ama koi ma'am naina minasi madudi exclamation mark. I have mentioned quite a lot of time exclamation mark or exclamation point koi mamang da ayam na hojik ai hojik pangraba ngaktani adubu akoi ma'am yengminasi exclamation mark haji kaino masi exclamation mark si is a punctuation mark ma'am singi marakta yam maru oiba punctuation mark ni masi which is this is one of the three punctuation marks that is used to end a sentence ama lotion bada sizinaba akoi punctuation mark ahum dugi marakta amani ani duna kai kaino mamangda yam pangre and let me remind you once again madudi period aduga question mark as well aduga ahum subsina this one hairiba exclamation marks niko aduna masi it's a exclamation mark is a punctuation mark that is used to this used in exclamation or strong commands ko yamna akanba hakpa yathang pibada or exclamation tawada or haibadi yamna ko emotion ji phongdok pada ko angak ꯐꯣꯡꯗꯣꯛꯄꯗ or ꯍꯔꯥꯎꯕ ꯐꯣꯡꯗꯣꯛꯄꯗ or ꯁꯥꯎꯅꯤꯡꯕ ꯐꯣꯡꯗꯣꯛꯄꯗ or ꯑꯃꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ intense emotion ꯑꯃ ꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ express ꯇꯧꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯁꯤꯖꯤꯟꯅꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ punctuation mark neba masi exclamation mark se. It is used in the sentence to express strong emotion as I give duni extreme strong emotion such as fear, kiba, anger, sounding ba, adagi shock or excitement. Yamna shock oiba ko kanom thodo om thokpa matamda yamna punging ta thazaru da thodo om thokpada koina shock tawdo or excitement harauman ma kanoma khoi matung marang hoba gi emotion phungdokpada koina sizinaba adugumba punctuation mark ne. Okay, when speaking the speech the spoken form the it's very easy to express our emotions. Akoi anger oiro, akoi excitement oiro, koina the way you stress the word or masi nangi why the stress kamai pi ba launa ngang ba natraga tapthaba sina akoi gi vocal cords sizinner kan stay da akoi we can express our emotions in our words when we speak. While in writings today it's very difficult. There is no emotion in the writings. Aduna emotion sibu akoi na masi hap nanabagidamagta emotion si alive tong nanabagidamagta or among the hagana the writings is animated by using the exclamatory marks ko haibadi akoi je sapa dani udoshi ko akoi na iriba mayam sing je adu sapa si lenghalaga emaji haraure maji sounding le maji excitement ore si masi alive ohin by animated to hon mase koi paba matam da animated to ba or alive ohelak pase kaina sizinage kaina ohin ge ha kan stay the exclamatory marks in it. For example, let me give you some few examples with exclamatory marks. There is a fierce dog in the house. Ko exclamatory mark koi paba matam da di akoi masi emotion je high bi ko adu haibidi akoina ngangthokpa matamda di but akoina paba matamda with our eyes adegi akoina paba matamda di masi kamaina hai ugadage hai kanda exclamatory marks yawbuna ne ko there is a fierce dog in the house yam tam thiba sathiba hui ma masi yum je leire run exclamatory mark ne se kaino chelhoro oh no it broke see no gi matungda exclamatory mark am lere it broke matungda am lere mai makhutagi koigi cup ama tara kai giba or kano ma kai giba imung ni da ma haisi ko oh no it broke masi kana exclamatory mark sina my emotions e masi phongdo ine. The volcano is erupting mai gi chingje pokai ragle si kind of exclamatory mark yaru kan stay da my emotions ulin. The robots are turning against us. Robots sing sina akoi gi mai ta onjalakle ko exclamatory marks lo yawi si sentencing say da kano si hoi u je kano kan the writer is expressing his fear, his emotion like fear, anger, shock, excitement ko magi kiba thukat pa pakhat pa harau bana ching ba si me my emotions e masigi exclamatory marks sina koina masi phongdo eba ko yengmina si we'll see some of the uses of exclamatory marks with other punctuation marks ko kudamoina habada exclamatory marks or exclamation points with the periods masi sizna ba yabra haibsi yade. Okay, remember the exclamation mark as well as periods say we use either or to end a sentence ama koiloshan ba matamda sigi ani sigi marakta ama sizinagani kaigino haikanda they are used to end a sentence ko adumakpu insai gi exceptions sai laikibugumna akoi question mark ta laikibugumna kedo haikanda say the sentence ki aroiba hairiba aroiba waisi abbreviation with full stop oitargadi of course we can use the exclamation marks akoi sizinaba. For example, I am really surprised to learn that he has shifted to the US. Can I say my surprise or my surprise mangona thazadaba phongdu ineba okay no hakanda emazi taseng ni US da hongre mayum hongre has ayamna nga e haibstay da okay no my exclamatory marks ni US haibstay da USA koi abbreviated form of United States haini adu full stop yawe adana masi full stop na loy but still sentence lorpa matam the exclamatory marks na loichalleba ko aduna khoi si exception khoi na ure adui matung da amuk what about using exclamatory marks or exclamation points with the question mark ka loina na season absina kamai tawba ko mem yeng minase ko tasengna akhoi mamangi akhoi gi full stop ka question mark ka season ba yabra hai masu koi hangre adubu yade adubu exception da formal writing da yadrasu informal writing da ya hai adugo chap manana akoi exclamatory marks ka akoi question mark ka si akoi ngai hai hibagumna ngai amuk aina mu hanjana hai sini kaino hai kan stay the informal writings da it is acceptable whereas of course in the formal writings official writings da akoi hai riba exclamatory marks as well as akoi gi question marks ani maksi season ba yade adubu informal writings da di mar upang singda koi sagai na tai koi sim inaba matam da it's acceptable for example where are the diamonds question ni question galuni na exclamatory mark it's a shock or surprise mangi bugumne diamonds thigang da mangi dagi thiraga pakhatlaga or okay hatare koi anger galona whatever emotion it may be which is attached to this person ko si nupa sina ngangpa matam da o irakpa matam da ma phauri ba adu phongduk na bagi da makta kena question and exclamatory marks se koina si uba phange kena se it is an informal writing ko where are the diamonds who did this si kanan toino question ni adu ngakna tawroidam ni si tawbam thukta ai tawno haibani du who did this haji keno question mark as well as a shock or a surprise or an anger ko masi mana sauning ba or angakpa phongdok pasi mana question mark as well as an exclamatory mark se koina sijine what ko mana question ama aina sum tha question ama hangpa matam da angakpa ga loina wahang hangba kaktana what nang hangi do kaino haiba kaktana tana nang hangi do kari khuang no o kaido wai hangi no haibagi adugi emotion do golena wahang do hang pumatam da mana shock and surprise golena koina phongdok pumatam da in informal writings da what I kind of question as well as an exclamation mark koina season ba pange aduga akoina exception amaga koi mem yengmina se exceptions there is always an exception koi gi grammar da exceptions adum thengnagani there is of course this particular set rule for any topic of the grammar gi topic am hekta koi set rule ama lei ironclad rule ama haibi ai adumakpu of course masi ironclad rule oitargasu koi masi hongbo sungya yadabani haitargasu there is always an exceptions ko aduna masi da exceptions atopa rule sing da su exception leibagumna there is an exceptions about using these exceptions to this general rule masi gi general rule se kaino masi exceptions se kaino hakanda if an exclamation ends with a title okay that has a question mark exclamation si koi gi question mark ka loina na ma si ka tare koi gi magi title ama gi koi gi title ama si like ama hoiro natraga na cinema ama hoiro ma cinema dugi maming or title dugi koi gi like dugi maming adu question mark ka loina na oibama oirese ko leina mayam ama cinema or lyric question hangaga title du mak question mark oiba question oiba lyric mayam am lei ada hairiba adugum badu oitaragadi kadawi I can stay da akoi hairiba si question mark loina na akoi exclamation marks akoi season agane ko the exception is amkan haijage the exception to this general rule is that if an exclamation ends with a title that has a question mark loina na koi title ama or lyric ama or cinema amagi maming movie amagi maming si question ga loina na to bataragadi in that case it is fine to use question mark and exclamation point together ngasai gi sidi kaino even in formal writing this formal writing not just in informal writing as I give do informal writing the question mark ka akoi exclamatory marks ga sizinaba yai habne adubu formal writing the informal writing the yataraga so formal writing akoi official oiba writing the akoi we should never use the exclamatory marks as well as the question marks is sinero habni adubu exception di kaino hai kan say da mana formal writing the su ko official oiba formal writing khra aremba gi situation da or magi phibam da kanoma writers ni irakpa matam da man iriba adugi writing du marak tu da karigumba title ama movie की title OBI नत्रगना कोई लाइक अमगी title OBI हाइरिबा लाइक नत्रग movie की title से question OIBA title OITARगदी मधु लोशलप मतमदा question गलोइना question mark गलोइना exclamation marks के सिजनब याय हैबनी even in the formal writings also. For example, I can't believe that she watched every episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Ko Are You Afraid of the Dark? Si कोई Paring na chathaba koi drama ne khalas example ni ko masi drama or movie dugi koi minute kitang aisale elotion ba tawjage mahairiba asi drama ne khalasi paring na chathaba episode 9 chathaba ma ne khalasi ado si mi sectiona kaido ka state I can't believe that she watched every episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark question mark and exclamatory mark ko sidida ani thongna yausale adon sida koina ure kaino hai kan sida masi akoina formal writing su sigi exception je oitargadi akoi we can both use the exclamation marks as well as the question mark aroiba amtang akoi masi point je hairaga koi ma'am losin minasi question marks with question marks if the quote is itself an exclamation mark ko quote si sino matam da exclamation oiba quote oitargdi angakpa yam emotional oiba akoi quote ama oireng khalasi mana quote karagumba mana hairamasi koin irakpa matam sida the exclamation marks goes inside of the quotation marks koi inverted commas ki manungda ko ma se leiganeba otherwise the exclamation mark is typically placed outside of the quotation marks haibadi inverted commas ki wangmada leiganeba ko haibadi magi quotation se akoi exclamation oiram the target. For example, the mischievous young boy shouted wolf ko yamna lamhen ba nupamacha sings no laruk lami kashan lae larami ado wolf haibzi kairo it's itself is masi akoi exclamation oiba ko mai quotation manung de haibidi inverted commas leise aduna quote koige exclamation mark se quotation gi manung de leigane whereas she smiled and calmly said I'm a vampire mana ingna tapna haire ai vampire ne haipa matamda masi tamok pumiduna ngaga tamaine mana di ko ngasai nupi duna di ingna tapna hai I'm a vampire adubu tamai wahi si kaino haikanda the manungi aikoigi I'm a vampire city simple statement ni it's not an exclamation sentence ko adubu tamai mi sina ngaga wow vampire ne na hairi ine haisi kaino the whole sentence is a exclamation sentence ko aduna kai exclamation mark si kai da legani hai kan the quotation gi wang ma da leidoine okay ngasi gi dangti matang sida akoi ma'am lotion minasi mathangi chayol da akoi colon semicolon aduga atai akoi gi punctuation marks ma'am naina mirigani ngasi gi dangti matang sida lotion minasi mayam digi kaina nabugi yathang duni jari